Intelligent design. It's a kind of magic. The intelligent design, or teleological argument, is best expressed by William Paley's story of finding a watch on the ground and knowing it was designed by its complexity. He then applies this analogy to the complexity of the human eye. Paley's analogy is compelling to many because they understand that a watch could not make itself and has to be the result of some non-natural process. Let me bring this more up to date than Paley's 1802 book, Natural Theology. Imagine you are sat at home watching your favourite YouTube channel on the big screen when suddenly, silently, and instantaneously a person appears in front of you. You can converse with them and touch them. They appear very much to be a real person. You might consider their appearance to be magical or supernatural. Certainly you would have no way whatsoever to rationally explain their sudden appearance in this way. But what if the person appearing in your room looked like this? Of course, you might now think that your mind has finally become unhinged, but leave it flapping in the breeze for a moment, and as we blur reality and science fiction, your brain is at least likely to throw up the words Star Trek and Transporter. You still won't have any idea how the feat was achieved, but your brain would at least now be able to grasp onto something familiar with which to partially explain away the phenomena. Arthur C. Clarke coined a phrase, condensing the thoughts of many earlier authors, that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Now, transportation of human beings may never be possible, but our familiarity with Star Trek might allow us to accept that it could happen and leave us in awe of the technology, but not filled with thoughts of magic and the supernatural. The point being that our willingness to ascribe a supernatural cause to any phenomena is directly related to our understanding of the phenomena and our wider knowledge of the natural or physical world. The Star Trek analogy might at first viewing seem fallacious, but it was intended for you who are well educated and endowed with the broad knowledge of a fully functioning member of the modern Western world. Think back to William Paley, writing as the 18th century ticked over to the 19th, before photographs, phonographs, batteries, or any real theory of electricity. Now imagine that instead of tripping over a watch on his morning walk, Paley stumbled upon an iPad. A watch Paley could recognize. The materials and machinery techniques used to manufacture a watch would not have baffled him. He would, I'm sure, be in awe, as I am, at the ability of anyone to actually create a machine that tells the time from so many intricate, interconnected parts. In the same way, I'm sure we are all in awe of the fact that all the complexity and functionality of an iPad can be built into such a lightweight, slim device. What would Paley think of the iPad? This would be a device utterly alien to him. The photographs, movies and sounds it presented to him would, not quite literally, blow his mind. Now, Paley was an educated man, and so he might not quite leap to the thought that the iPad was magical or supernatural, but would he be able to begin to explain its existence as anything else? Now transport the iPad further back in time, or to a much less educated and more superstitious individual. We'll call him Raymond. And you can easily imagine that Raymond would indeed consider the iPad to be supernatural, possibly demonic. You've probably heard stories of less advanced or simply superstitious cultures believing that cameras could steal the soul. Imagine filming one of those people on your iPad and then playing it back to them, or perhaps playing them a video of a recently departed relative. So what is the difference between intelligent design and magic? Paley saw intelligent design in the watch because he understood the materials and processes through which the watch came into being, which left him only to compare its existence to that of, say, the human eye. Our primitive, ignorant Raymond, when presented with an iPad, would not understand the materials and processes through which it came into being. Its advanced technology would be indistinguishable to him from magic. Now Paley might scoff at Raymond for his superstitious nature and tell him that the iPad, whilst it might be baffling to him, was clearly made of physical material and was therefore obviously an object of the real world and not the supernatural one. And whilst Paley himself had no idea who could have created the iPad or how, to him it obviously was created and indeed was a perfect example of Paley's own proof of creation. There is no way that an iPad could come about naturally, says Paley. It must have been intelligently designed. How much more evidence do you need, therefore, that the human eye, too, must have been intelligently designed? What Paley has done here is to explain away Raymond's superstitious approach to the iPad as nothing more than a God of the gaps argument. It is only Raymond's superstition and ignorance which leads him to ascribe anything magical or supernatural to the iPad. Paley is much more knowledgeable than Raymond, and he sees the iPad for what it is, a product of the natural physical world. But of course, Paley's teleological intelligent design argument is also a God of the gaps argument in itself. His claim that the eye must be intelligently designed is simply because he could not comprehend how its complexity and functionality arose, so he simply ascribed its existence to God, a supernatural or magical entity. Paley did precisely what he might have scoffed at ignorant Raymond for doing. He used the God of the gaps. We now know that the human eye was not intelligently designed. It did not come into being complete and functional as we now know it. Stages of the development of the eye are found throughout nature, and as scientists explore the genetics of the eye, they only add to confirmation that the eye evolved. There is a nasty genetic abnormality in which the iris of the eye does not form. This is caused by a defect in the PAX6 gene in chromosome 11. The PAX6 gene is present across the animal kingdom and has been studied in detail in mice, zebrafish, and Drosophila, fruit flies. Now, you might like to continue believing that your God, or some God, created all the other creatures and then thought, right, now I'll create man, my crowning achievement, with his intelligently designed eye. What shall I use to make him? I know, where did I put the blueprints for the fruit fly? But this would be like Apple deciding to create the iPad and deciding it needed a still camera, movie camera, microphone, telephone, speakers, TV screen and watch, and lumping them together. Of course, a modern watch is not an evolution of the first watch. It is a completely different beast, based on digital and semiconductor technology. Intelligent design does not mean building new products from old technologies using old techniques. It means exploiting the most modern materials, technologies and techniques to produce a product fit for purpose. Evolution predicts and explains why the PAX6 gene is found to have the same functionality across the animal kingdom. Intelligent design does not. As scientific knowledge continues to progress, the gap for the gods continues to shrink. You can still claim that abiogenesis proves you're God, if it makes you feel better, because science is yet to provide a proven theory for abiogenesis. But please do not use irreducible complexity, intelligent design, or teleology, because in doing so, you are simply exposing your ignorance.